Welcome to the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden. We're a 22-acre botanical garden located in Federal Way, Washington, which is more or less midway between Seattle and Tacoma, Washington, just south of the airport. The garden was first planted and designed back in the late 1970s, and we've been growing ever since then. A really stunning display year-round, but of course the peak bloom for us, with the rhododendrons especially, is mid-March to mid-May. So if you're really interested in seeing flowers, that's your best time to come. Although the beautiful evergreen foliage, the fall color, the new growth on the ferns and hostas, that's great color year-round, of course. The Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden features about 850 different species of wild rhododendrons. We have some out here on the west coast up in the mountains. We have species that are native back in the eastern deciduous forests and the Appalachians, but the vast majority of the wild species are actually found in Asia. Japan, China, the Himalayas, Vietnam, and those species are what make up the bulk of our collection here at the RSBG. Many people do not realize that there is still active and ongoing exploration and study of the genus rhododendron. One such example is this species, which is called Rhododendron cardiobasis. First described back in the 1930s, but it had never been seen in the wild. It had never been collected and introduced into horticulture. So this was introduced in 2010, and we now have these 10-foot specimens growing with these big, beautiful, lightly fragrant flowers. It really is a spectacular new introduction. The RSBG itself is actively involved in participating in these exploration trips and in the study and ongoing scientific research with the genus rhododendron. And we were happy to be a part of the expedition that was able to find the true cardiobasis in the wild finally, and now we have it growing in our garden. Another very popular feature here in the garden, which generally blooms from mid-April to mid-June. It's a little late this year, it's been cold. This is our blue poppy meadow. So this is the famous Himalayan blue poppy. You can see the stunning flowers there. Very difficult to grow successfully. We have pretty good luck here, but a really nice splash of different color right in the middle of spring. Come and see that. May's peak for the blue poppies. Another very popular feature at the garden is a place we call the stumpery. This was put in 2009, working with the folks at the Hardy Fern Foundation. So we basically brought in several truckloads of old stumps and logs and placed them on this slope, and then backfilled and densely planted it with ferns, big leaf rhododendrons, Araliads, etc., to give it kind of that subtropical look. So since that time, a lot of the old stumps and logs have become completely covered with mosses and ferns. So it really is a lush tropical setting, nice and shady and moist, beautiful spot to visit, especially in the summer. It's right across the road from the pond, and it is beautiful year-round. Another group of species rhododendrons are the rhododendrons we call the big leaves, for obvious reasons. Most of them have very large leaves. This species, Sano Grande, has the largest leaves of any species in the genus. On a young, well-grown plant, you can have leaves literally 2.5 feet long, if you can imagine, on a rhododendron. This will form a tree 80 feet tall. These are featured in an area we call the Big Leaf Garden. Here we are with a species called Rhododendron rex, which comes from southwestern China. This is another one of the big leaf species with the very large leaves, as you can see here. So the big leaf collection basically covers about 2 acres of the garden, so a pretty good chunk of it. And it consists of groves of separate species of big leaves, each grove containing numerous collections from throughout the range of the species in the wild. So for instance, Rhododendron rex, which you see here in mid-May in full bloom, one that I would really recommend. It's hardy, beautiful foliage, beautiful flowers, easier to grow. We have probably 60 different accessions. So an accession here is a distinct individual or clone. So, and those 60 accessions represent different collections from throughout the range of the species. So by doing this, we are preserving and representing a pretty good chunk of the genome of this species. And you can come and see those. They start blooming in March and go right through into June. In our 22-acre botanical garden, in addition to the rhododendron species, you will also find a huge selection of what we call companion plants. These are plants that are non-rhododendrons, obviously, but they are plants that are found growing naturally in the wild with rhododendrons. So a big part of the attraction of the garden is our selection of companion plants, most of them grown from wild sources, wild seed, just like the rhododendron collection. One that is especially popular with many visitors is a plant called Japanese bigleaf magnolia. This is a species called Magnolia obovata, which comes from Japan. And the 5 trees in the grove here are now about almost 30 years old, and they're about 40 feet tall. They're in bloom right now. The leaves will get up to 2 feet long, and you have these big, beautiful, fragrant white flowers from mid-May to mid-June. Stunning plant, beautiful foliage, and again, they grow naturally in the wild with the rhododendrons. Another one of our most popular companion plants is this Japanese jack-in-the-pulpit. This is a species called Eracema cicochianum, and you'll see the best examples of that growing here in the stumpery. You see the nice pure white inside, and then it features the green and purple backside. Just a stunning plant, usually with variegated foliage, easy to grow in the woodland garden. We have a lot of it throughout the garden. That's one you can purchase here as well. One that many people don't realize even exists. Another one of our famous companion plants here in the garden is a plant called the dove tree or the handkerchief tree. This is a tree, a deciduous tree from China called Davidia involucrata, and the finding and collection of this tree is what set off the big explosion of plant hunting in Asia back in the late 1800s. This tree is responsible directly for many of the great ornamental plants we now have in our garden. This one is especially spectacular, the dove tree. It blooms mid-May with these big rounded leaves and then these big white flowers that hang all over the tree by the thousands. You can see the size. This is actually a bract. The flowers themselves are these little tiny round balls of basically non-showy flowers, but the bract itself really makes the tree stand out. Here we are in part of the azalea collection. So this is a big part of the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden. Most people would recognize this, which is a species from Japan, as an azalea. Most people don't realize that azaleas technically are rhododendrons. It's the old saying, all azaleas are rhododendrons, but not all rhododendrons are azaleas. So there are deciduous azaleas and there are evergreen species of azaleas. This one happens to be deciduous, very beautiful in mid-May. And then of course on the deciduous species, which lose their leaves, we get great fall foliage color. So you get that second season of color. Many of the deciduous species are also fragrant, especially the ones that you will see that come from Eastern North America. And now we're in the Rutherford Conservatory. So the conservatory was completed in 2010, and it is full of flowers year-round. It's an escape in the doldrums of our Pac Northwest winters when it's cold and gray and dreary outside. You can come inside and feast your eyes upon all the tropical rhododendrons and the orchids and the tree ferns that we cultivate here. One of the reasons we built the Rutherford Conservatory was so that we could illustrate and educate the public about the conservation issues that are affecting a great many of the wild rhododendron species in the world, especially in places like Southeastern Asia, where they're under tremendous threat of destruction and even extinction from human activity. One such example is the virea, which is a tropical rhododendron known as Rhododendron taxifolium. This is a species with leaves like a yew tree. Taxus is yew, so leaves like a yew. Does not look like a rhododendron, but then when you see the little white bells hanging here, it obviously is a rhododendron. This species is probably extinct in the wild. It was found one time growing in a cloud forest on a mountain in the Philippines. The next time the scientists went back to document that species, that forest had been entirely clear-cut and they were growing food there. Everybody likes to eat, you can't blame the locals, but that species is probably now gone in the wild. That's one of the reasons the Rhododendron Species Botanic Garden is here, because we're trying to preserve as much of the genome of the genus Rhododendron as we possibly can in our 22-acre garden. And so we have taxifolium cultivated here, so it is not extinct completely, even though it may be extirpated in the wild. We still have it, we can propagate it, we can ship it around the world to other botanic gardens so that its genetics can be preserved, hopefully forever. So here in the Rutherford Conservatory, we primarily grow what are known as virea rhododendrons. The vireas, that's a common name for basically a group of tropical rhododendrons. Most people don't realize, but even here in the Pacific Northwest, which is kind of the greatest spot on the planet to grow rhododendron species, we can still only do about half of the 1,200 species known in the wild in our climate. So with the conservatory, we're able to grow the species that actually occur in the tropics, places like Papua New Guinea, Malaysia, Borneo, Sarawak, etc., etc. One of those is this species, which is blooming right now, which is one of my favorites. It's a species from Borneo called Rhododendron polyanthemum. And it's especially unusual in a rhododendron in the fact that not only does it have orange flowers, but the orange flowers are fragrant. Very unusual. What we also like about this species is the fabulous scales, the indumentum on the foliage. You can see the color there of that new foliage emerging with those golden brown scales. And then that is maintained on the lower surface, as you can see here. So here we are in the nursery complex here at the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden, and this is our propagation greenhouse. So this is where it all begins. Right now we're wrapping up seed season, so seeds are sown in late autumn and are pricked out through the winter and planted into these flats as you see here. Once they've grown on a bit, they're put into larger pots and are moved outside to be grown on for a year or two. And then those plants either go into the garden, or they go to other botanic gardens and institutions, or they go into your own backyard. This is one of our 6 hoop houses, our growing areas. And once plants reach a certain age in the propagation house, they are brought outside into one of these houses to be grown on for a year or two. And as you can see, we produce quite a bit of plant material. Visitors to the garden should also be aware that we do have plants for sale here in our plant sales area right at the entrance to the garden. These plants are available year-round. Many of them are propagated from the actual plants you'll see growing out in the garden, the rhododendrons, the trilliums, the ferns, the blue poppies. Come and pick out a great new plant for your garden. I think you'll find a tremendous selection here. Thank you for spending some time with us. Hopefully this was a nice introduction for you to what we have going on here at the Rhododendron Species Botanical Garden. So come on out for a visit. It's a world-class collection in a beautiful setting, and I know you'll enjoy it. Thank you.